I enjoyed high school a lot. I mean, that there were bad days and some tough tests and probably a lot of other things that you're going through, but you don't really appreciate what you have here at this school. I live in the Washington, D.C. area, and I guess we all have at one point or another. The schools in D.C., it is hard to find extracurricular activities. The facilities are awful. The administrators and the students, quite too many of them, frankly, just lack passion. And this is a city that spends more money per student than any place in the country. It's just not spent properly. So when I was saying before to take advantage of the opportunities that you have here and also in college, I'm really sincere about that. If you go to a place like Washington, D.C., and it's not the only big city that's like this, but it's one that shouldn't be that way, it's the nation's capital, to see what they don't have and feel privileged from where you came from, as I do. In some ways, I enjoy it more now than I did 37 years ago.
And they say that things you remember best never really happen. I certainly remember very good times from Scarsdale and enjoyed it very much. It's hard to recall the anxiety that one must have with the number of tests that we took and the number of papers we had to write, the number of homework assignments you had to do. And I know that must have been, it must be less than fully pleasant. But as Tom was saying, it was also just an incredibly stimulating environment. I just remember the lively discussions we'd have in the hallway and the little offices that we had for student government, in the GO meetings, even on the sports teams. It was not, just a take it as it comes type of environment. People really followed what went on in the world and challenged each other. And there would be debates, and people would be writing things and responding to them. And that was just a great way to learn outside the classroom as well as inside the classroom. And we had teachers such as Eric, such as a fellow named Werner Feig, Irving Sloan, who some of you had in junior high school, who made you think outside the box, and there wasn't an accepted version of reality that you got in a textbook. Instead, you were challenged to look at original documents and sources and reach your own conclusions and be able to defend them by analysis and reference to facts and evidence. And what's always surprised me is, as I've gotten older, the people who I grew up with in Scarsdale and went to high school with, I still feel a very special bond and connection to, in many ways more than others that I've met at other parts of my life. And I still find that I'll meet colleagues who felt that getting away from the community they grew up with and going to college or graduate school was a liberating experience because they were able to escape their provincial upbringing and get a more diverse exposure. And Scarsdale, while it is perhaps still a little isolated in socioeconomic basis, still, from my perspective, was a very enriching and enlightening community that really, for me, has very pleasant memories.
Well, when I look back at high school, I think that I've enjoyed life more since. That may be a political way to answer it. There's so many issues you deal with in high school where you're not sure about yourself, you're not sure about how you're doing, you're not sure where you're going, you're not sure about all kinds of things that as you get through college and graduate school and take your next step, things tend to come into focus a little more clearly. That takes can often take some of the anxiety that you might otherwise feel when you have all those questions out from under. There's some great times I think back at Scarsdale High School, and times that you guys will always think back on as hilarious, or you couldn't believe, lifelong stories. You'll make lifelong friends, as Ken said, that you'll share things with forever. But as you all know, as many good days as you have bad days, and the good thing to know about it is it's all moving in a direction where it generally gets easier to deal with the pressures and counter pressures that you feel.
Did you have a question? I'm sorry.
Oh, yeah. I was going to ask you to circle
Sure. I made me sorry I told that story. One of the responsibilities I had at the garden was, if you've been to the garden, you've seen the video board and the lights and the sound and the music and all that stuff. That was something that we initiated back in the late 80s.